Okay, here's an example in which they're giving us a function, and they want us to find f inverse of -1. Now, I know that -1 can be confusing. Let's just, for the moment, pretend it just said x. Okay, let's just ignore that -1 and just do, a lot of times in math and science, they give you a weird question. Just do what you already know to do, and then later worry about the weird part, see if something comes to mind. So it's going to do the normal thing. What's the normal thing? Well, to find an inverse function, step one is we invert, meaning we switch x and y. So, okay. So, and where's the y? Well, this, this is y. The function is the y. So this y will switch with that x and the other one. It's both of them, huh? So this will become x on the outside, and these guys will both become y's, like this. So that's step one, right, that we always do for an inverse function, switch x and y. Step two, then we solve for y. So we've got to solve for y. How do we solve for y? You put this over 1, remember, diagonal, cross multiply. So we get x times y plus 7 equals 1 times y plus 2. And then, where do we go from here? Now let's distribute. Excuse me. xy plus 7x equals, boom, boom, y plus 2. That's great. Okay, now it's kind of confusing. You got to kind of keep focused on y. See, here's y, and here's y. No, and we're trying to solve for y, right? Solve for y, and y is in two places. So let me give some instructions. When y is in two places, A, get the y's on the same side. So first off, get the y's on the same side. So I'm going to grab this guy and jump him over here, and grab this plus 7x and jump him over there. Do you know that when you jump things to the other side, it just switches the sign? So it'll become xy minus y. This will become minus 7x plus 2. So you see how that plus 7x became minus 7x when it jumped to the other side. And the regular plus y jumped over here, became a minus y. Now, really what I'm doing is I'm just skipping a step to save time, because really I just subtracted y from both sides, right? And it canceled that guy out, and it became a negative y on this side. And then I also subtracted 7x from both sides, which got rid of that 7x and put a negative 7x on this side. So it's just a shortcut, right? I'm just subtracting 7x from both sides and subtracting y from both sides. But to save time, a nice shortcut is just jump the stuff to the other side, and when you do, it'll just switch its sign. Okay, now why am I doing all that again? I'm trying to get the y's on the same side. See the y there and the y there? I got the two y's on the same side, and then the other two terms don't have y's. So I got both the y's on the same side. I'm trying to solve for y, remember? And then B, let's factor y in the front like that. So I'm going to go, okay, y in the front. What's it goes in here? X minus 1, y. Because y times x would go back to xy, and y times 1 times negative 1 would go back to negative y, wouldn't it? You good with that? So I've just factored out the y. So here we go like that. Okay. Now, and then C, divide. Divide by that x minus 1, and we're going to get y alone. So boom, boom. So there we go. We got the y alone. Y is negative 7x plus 2 over x minus 1. So we got the y alone. Now we can think, okay, and what is that? That's the inverse. That's the inverse function. So we have now arrived at this fact. The inverse function is minus 7x plus 2 over x minus 1, right? That was the original question. They want us to find the inverse function. Remember, I just changed it to x just to say, let's just pretend it said x. And so we did all the work. To find an inverse function, you invert x and y. We switched x and y, and we solved for y. Got y alone. It was a little tricky. So there's the inverse function. Now, let's say, okay, they really wanted a negative 1 in there. That's what they really asked. So really, they want f inverse of -1, right? That's what they're asking for here. F inverse of -1. That was really the original question. I just pretended it was an x for a while because that's what I knew how to do. Well, now do you know what to do with that -1? You just plug it in, don't you? Right? The -1 is just in the x spot, so put the -1 there, put the -1 there. Whenever we put something in a function, regular function or inverse function, doesn't matter. You know what to do. You just plug it in, right? So I'll just put the -1 there and the -1 there and then just work it out. So what is that? That's going to be plus 7 minus 2 over minus 2 on the bottom. That's 5 over minus 2. There's our answer. I don't know if they probably want a fraction just like that. Yeah, so there it is, 5 over minus 2. So you just do the normal stuff. So on this question, you just do the normal stuff you always do to find an inverse function, which means invert x and y, switch x and y, solve for y. Once you get y alone, that's the inverse function. And then you say, oh, they just want -1 plugged into the inverse function. So plug -1 in there and there for x, the two x spots, and just work it out. There it is.